Welcome everybody to the special video brought to you by NoContextCFB. We're the transfer portal CFB. My name is Brian, and I got Adam with me. Adam, how you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Almost the weekend. I got me some wine, so I'm chilling. Glad to be
Chilling.
back. I feel like we haven't talked in a while. Me and
Yeah,
you.
it's been a minute. It's been a minute, man. But it's a special. So obviously, college game day is a big part of college football. It's probably one of the most important parts, one of the best parts of the most unique parts of college football is, where is game day going to be that week? And we're just under 100 days till the college football season. So what better time than now than to kind of predict where these college game day sites are going to be week by week. So I'm going to say my pick. Adam's going to say his picks per week, and then we're kind of gonna, if there's any disagreements, we'll kind of meet in the middle and see where we land. But obviously, there's a lot of big games throughout the season, and honestly, we're not gonna get every single one right. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that happens throughout the year. Teams that are better are better than they're expected to be. Teams are worse than they're expected to be. So obviously, this is just from the eye test at what we expect to happen, and it could definitely change. So we kind of start. So to begin, we kind of started going back and forth about whether we want to do, week zero. I know week zero isn't technically, the most big teams don't play until week one, but the college football season does technically begin in week zero. So what me and Adam kind of talked about was every year they go to an FCS school, at least one. I think with Jackson State being such of a high profile right now, they're probably the most. They're not the best FCS school, but I feel like they have the most notoriety and the most hype around them right now with Deion Sanders and just the recruiting that they did. So for me, at least, I think that if they go anywhere at all, I think ESPN and the College Game Day crew will travel to Jackson State in week zero for the Jackson State Florida A&M game. That's just my prediction. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree with you. We mentioned that they might go to Ireland. I think that would be kind
That's
of
right.
amazing to do. It'd be good. I think it'd be good for the sport too. Branch out, go across, and the Irish fans. It'll be crazy. But the logistical thing would be go to Jackson State. Like kind of like you said, Deion Sanders, he's doing some amazing things despite what Nick Saban thinks. So yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
pick. I think they'll win too. I think we got them winning. We should go ahead and pick each game too. Might as well. So yeah, I think we're one for one. We
Yeah, I think
agree.
they win too. Yeah, we definitely agree on that. Yeah, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Ireland would be pretty fun, but I don't think ESPN wants to go through those logistics of having to fly all that equipment, everything to Ireland. So we'll kind of stay away from that. But week one, the official, I guess you can say the official start of the college football season. There's a lot of big games. And honestly, this is kind of cheating because college game, as of now, they've already announced where they're going to go. They did announce they're going to Columbus, Ohio for Notre Dame at Ohio State. That is going to be the nightcap, the 7 o'clock tip off on ABC. I'm sure you'll have Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit on the call on that. So they've already announced that that's where they're going to go. So obviously we already know that. I'm going to pick Ohio State to win. I think Notre Dame is going to be a very, very good team this year, but I still think that Ohio State is going to be in contention to win the Big Ten again, like they are every year. I do have an honorable mention, which is irrelevant at this point because I've already announced it. But I really bummed that they're not going to UGA in Oregon, in Atlanta, the defending national champions, versus the defensive coordinator from Georgia. There's a lot of storylines there. You have the like I said, the defending national champions. Shout out, playing against his Kirby Smart's former defensive coordinator who helped him win the national championship and got, I think it was like 9 defensive players drafted, or 9 or 10 defensive players drafted, 5 defensive players drafted in the first round, with Dan Lanning. That's a pretty cool, in a neutral site in Atlanta, Georgia, at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I would have thought that would have been the better matchup, but I can understand why they're going to Ohio State and Notre Dame. So that one's pretty easy. They've already announced it, but I have Ohio State winning now.
Yeah, I think you said. I mean, it's a top 5 matchup. There's no way they pass that up.
Yeah.
I will be watching that Oregon Georgia. I think. Let me see what Dan Lanning does. Um, Oregon's lost a lot of pieces, but I think he's a good coach. So I'm intrigued in that. I'm gonna go Ohio State as well. Um, think it'll be close. We'll see what Notre Dame does post Brian Kelly. They got Marcus Freeman in there, so I'm gonna go Ohio State. But I think it's gonna be close. Now week 2, tell me we got the same one for week 2.
I could tell that banner in the background. It's really
You
there's really
see
no
it?
other choice. Yeah, I see that, man. There's really no other choice. Honestly, I don't even have an honorable mention for this one. It
No.
has to be Bama and UT. Austin, Texas. All the hype. Obviously, Bama's Bama. Coming off the national championship loss, they've reloaded like they do every year. They've done what they always do. But Texas, is Texas back? That's the question.
We're
And
back.
what better way to answer that question than a matchup against Alabama, who are probably going to be ranked in the top 3 at this point. Maybe they'll be ranked. They'll probably even be ranked number 1 at this point in the season. So yeah, there's really no other choice, honestly. That's all I got. I mean, it's obvious that they're going to go there.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's Texas versus Alabama. But I wanted, who I got winning. Who do you have winning?
Man, you know what? I'm going to go. I really, really want to go with UT. I think that story would be amazing. Steve Sarkisian against his former employer, per se. Just the whole hype around Texas. But I can't go against Nick Saban. I'm sorry. I think the last time that Texas had this kind of a big matchup this early in the season was when they played LSU in 2019, when LSU won their national championship.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas played them very, very well until late. So I'm gonna go with Bama though. I can't go against UT. I really want to, but I can't. I'm gonna go with Bama on this one.
You will eat those words, Brian. I want you to know that. I'm gonna roll this tape back come week 2.
Yeah,
Just know.
no, we will. We'll see what happens week 3. We'll see what happens on week 2. But it'll be early, so we'll find out right away.
We will.
Yeah, but moving on to week 3, there's a lot of very interesting matchups. I was kind of torn between 2 though. I think they're gonna go to Penn State and Auburn. At Auburn, I think that Penn State's depending on what they do the first couple of weeks, they should be ranked. I think Auburn will be ranked as well. I kind of think that they might go to Miami and Texas A&M, but I don't know if they want to go to like the Texas team 2 weeks in a row. I know they're not separate conferences and everything like that, but and obviously with Miami and Mario Cristobal and everything like that, and Texas A&M with kind of the headlines that they're kind of putting up now with what happened today with Jimbo Fisher and their number 1 recruiting class. It might be more of an interesting matchup, but I think they'll go with a safe pick, and they'll go with Penn State at Auburn, and I think Penn State beats Auburn on that one.
Okay. See, I was thinking that too, but then I looked it up and I saw Penn State versus Auburn is a CBS game, and I'm not sure how ESPN would do cross promotion. They do it sometimes, like Alabama, Texas is Fox, but I think they're gonna go there because they can't pass that up. But I'm thinking they're not gonna promote another network 2 weeks in a row. So I'm gonna go Miami at Texas A&M.
Okay. See, I think you're right. I did kind of want to go that way as well. So I'm gonna kind of, with the consensus, I think they will go to Miami, Texas A&M, because I didn't even think about that. But that's a great point. I do think that they don't want to promote all their networks. They don't do it that often. Obviously, with high quality games or high profile games, they will do that. But I agree. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with Miami and Texas A&M as well. I do think that they will end up going there. I just think that Penn State and Auburn might be the safer choice, but
It
Miami
is.
Texas A&M is also a great matchup. So I'll stamp that one down as well. Miami Texas A&M, and I do think Texas A&M beats Miami. At least that's my opinion. So
I think Miami beats. I got Miami beating A. It might be the hater in me talking.
yeah,
But
yeah, that could be. It could be.
But I'm gonna take Miami in that one.
Okay, yeah, that'll be a good matchup for sure. So week 4, Again, another kind of, there's a lot of different matchups on there.
Mhm.
I'm picking Clemson at Wake Forest.
Wow.
I don't think that Wake Forest has had a game day game in a while. I think it's been a couple of years. I can't, don't quote me on that. I may be wrong on that as well. But I do think Clemson bounces back from the tough year they had last year. I do think that they will be, ranked in the top 5, maybe even, they'll definitely be ranked top 10, maybe even the top 5. I think Wake Forest, they did have a pretty good season last year. They made it to the ACC championship game. Sam Hartman's coming back, for his, I think it's going to be his 5th season, I think. So he's going to be, he had a great season last year. My audible mention is Wisconsin at Ohio State.
Has to be, huh?
Yeah, but I don't know if I trust Wisconsin, as much
True.
as I do Clemson. I don't know. I feel like if Wisconsin has a loss or two by that point, I don't think they will go there. It's definitely a great matchup. So if both teams are undefeated, they probably will go to Wisconsin at Ohio State. But I think, with Clemson and Wake Forest, the ACC is an ESPN network, is an ESPN conference anyway, like we talked about earlier. So I still think, and Wisconsin, Ohio State will probably be the noon kickoff game for Fox. So I'm gonna go with Clemson at Wake Forest. It's a little unorthodox and a little bit out there, but I do think that it's kind of a fun matchup to do. And if it's not whenever for Wake Forest to get a game day game. So I'm gonna go with Clemson and Wake Forest, and I do have Clemson beating Wake Forest, and I have Ohio State beating Wisconsin for sure.
I really like that pick. I didn't even think of that, so that's my fault. Originally, I was gonna go TCU at SMU,
Mm.
but there's no way they go to Texas 3 straight weeks because we have 'em at Texas, at A&M. There's no way
Yeah.
they go to SMU, and I don't think that obviously Wisconsin at Ohio State is the marquee game, so to speak, but they went to Ohio State week 1. They're probably going to go there later on. I'm sure we're talking about Ohio State again. So, yeah, I mean, I'm agree with you. I like yours, Clemson versus Wake Forest, and I'm gonna roll with Clemson too. I think Dabo's gonna figure it out this year.
Yeah, I do think that as well. I did try not to make, I know it's like, I try to make it a rule to only pick one school one time, like they go to one place one time. I know it's
Mhm.
not realistic though, because they do go multiple times to a certain school. I know last year they went to Georgia like 3 times, I think. So yeah, but so that's why I kind of try to steer away from Ohio State as well. But yeah, I did end up picking them again later on, and so we were going to talk about that anyway. So but yeah, so moving on to week number 5. Um, who do you have for week 5? Why don't you go first this one?
Week 5, um, I have Oklahoma State at Baylor for week 5. Kind of a rematch of the Big 12 championship. Big 12 is going to be in full swing by then. I think both of the teams should have decent records on paper, at least. Um, and my honorable mention was Michigan at Iowa. To be honest, I just don't want to. I mean, I hate the Big Ten. Big Ten football is so bad, and Michigan at Iowa just doesn't interest me at all. So I went with Oklahoma State at Baylor. If I was on College Game Day, I would not want to watch a
Yeah.
Michigan versus Iowa game. I'd rather watch Oklahoma State versus Baylor. And I think Oklahoma State wins that game.
Hmm.
What about you?
Yeah, so I also went with Oklahoma State at Baylor.
Really?
Yeah, I went with Ohio State at Oklahoma State at Baylor, and I do think Baylor wins that game. They are at home. They're in Waco. I do think they. I do. I think I have Ohio State. I'm sorry. I think I have Baylor being better than a lot of people are. I think that they're gonna bounce. They're gonna continue that momentum they had last year. Um, but I do have Oklahoma State in another game coming up, so I think I kind of want to go with Oklahoma State, because just to kind of keep my picks aligned. But
Mhm.
my honorable mention for week 5 is Arkansas at Bama. I think if Arkansas can be undefeated, and I already picked Bama to beat UT, if they're both undefeated, they might go there. SEC is another ESPN, conference. So, um, but that also could be the CBS game as well. But yeah, so that's my audible mention. But I think I do think they go to Oklahoma State and Baylor, and I have Baylor winning that one.
Nice, I agree. Week 6, I feel like now this has to be a no-brainer too, huh? after everything that's
Yeah.
going on.
Oh yeah. Especially after everything that happened the last couple of days. This is yeah. I do have an honorable mention on there, but yeah,
Do
no, it's
you? I
A&M
didn't
and
even think
Bama.
about it.
It's A&M and Bama. There's no question about that. Yeah, it has to be. Especially Bama's undefeated. A&M, if they beat Miami, they're undefeated. That's definitely could be a top five matchup. I think Bama wins. My honorable mention was OU and Texas because OU and Texas is another one of those, you know,
Yeah.
high profile rivalries. But
Do they go to the
yeah,
Red River? I haven't. I feel like I haven't seen them there in a long time.
I thought didn't they go? Weren't they both ranked like top 15 a couple years ago? And they went
They
maybe I
did.
don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah, it's another Fox game usually. So,
I'm saying I
but
think
yeah,
Fox normally covers that pretty heavy.
they do. That is true. So yeah, but A&M Bama for sure it has to be.
Mhm.
There's no question about it. It's going to be the 3:30 CBS game. Yeah, it's going to be. It has to be.
Who
There's
you
no
got?
question about it.
Who you
I got
got?
Bama. I
You
got
got
Bama.
Bama.
Yeah,
I got Bama too. I don't see Nick Saban not losing twice. He,
yeah, and I think he's going to mark that on his calendar after Jimbo Fisher's
oh
comments this
yeah,
morning. So that has to be up there. So we both agree on that one. Put a stamp on that. Week 7. I went with Michigan and Penn State. I
ah.
think, yeah, I mean, I think Michigan's going to be. I still think Michigan's going to be very good. I don't know if it's. I have recency bias with teams like Oklahoma State, Baylor, Michigan, but I feel like Michigan's going to be very good, and Penn State. They're Penn State. I do think that could, especially if they beat Auburn, in week 2, in week 3, where we have them going, or where at least I have them going to, for game day. But I picked Michigan State at Michigan or Penn State at Michigan, and then my honorable mention, which is I almost wanted to pick it, but I didn't. It was USC at Utah.
That's
I
my
think
pick.
that is it really.
It is.
I don't think that Utah's ever had a college game day game in a long time, at least. Not anything that I can remember. They might have had one a couple of years ago when they were top 10, but that's a pretty decent matchup. But I still think they go with a safe choice, and they go with Penn State at Michigan.
Penn State.
So
Yeah, I went with USC Utah because we got to get some Pac-12 love in there, and Lincoln Riley USC's hot now. I feel like it's the only other time I could maybe see them getting one is versus Stanford, but that's week 2, and we know that's Texas Alabama.
oh yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean, when I was making my list, I didn't have any Pac-12 on here, so I was
mm,
like, let me toss USC at Utah so we get some
yeah.
Pac-12 love.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go with you in that one. Go USC Utah. Yeah, like I said, I was really close to picking it, but then when I was thinking about it, I was kind of like, I don't know, this might be too creative. I don't think they will go to Utah, but especially like in the West Coast, they start game day at like, is it like 6 a.m.?
Yeah, it's gonna be early.
So yeah, it's gonna be an early game, early broadcast for sure for them. So but yeah, I'll go ahead and agree with you. I think it's USC at Utah as well. I'll throw away my prediction with Penn State at Michigan and go with USC Utah. And I think Utah beats USC. I think
Wow.
Utah's going to be better than. It's going to surprise some people. So I'm going to go with Utah. Yep.
I I like Utah a lot. I think USC gets them. Actually, no, I'm going Utah at home. I'm going Utah at home. They're at home. They got college game day coming. They're gonna be
Yeah,
rowdy. I'm
go
going.
Utes.
Yeah. I'm not confident. I don't like to pick, but I'm gonna go. I'm gonna ride with you. We're gonna go Utah. Who
I
you got for
bet.
week 8?
So week 8, I think it's Texas at Oklahoma State. I know. I think especially so if Texas. I know I didn't predict them to beat Bama, but if they do beat Bama, they should be ranked pretty high. If they're undefeated at this point, and if they beat Bama and they beat OU, they'll definitely be at least in the top 5, I think. And I think Oklahoma State is still going to be. It is going to be very good. I don't think that they're going to drop off as much as I think they will, or as some people think they will, I should say. But if either of those teams if Texas loses to Oklahoma and they lose to Bama, they're not going to put a 2+ team there. So my honorable mention, which is another Pac-12 team. A matchup is UCLA at Oregon. If Oregon can beat Georgia, which I don't think they will, but if they can beat Georgia, they could probably be ranked pretty high at that point. I think UCLA, they kind of had that start of the season last year where they were pretty good and they kind of fell off. And I think they can kind of, get back on track and be pretty good at this point in the season. So that was my honorable mention, but I originally went with Texas, Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. So I have one that you didn't even mention. I went with Ole Miss at LSU. I was looking at Ole Miss's schedule. I'm not gonna say, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean it looks like a cakewalk. So they should be undefeated, maybe have one loss, maybe. So I think they'll be highly ranked. You got Brian Kelly. It's it's LSU, is Baton Rouge. So that's what I picked. My honorable mention was Oregon at UCLA. Kind of for the stuff you said as well. But I'm always down for more Texas on national TV. So I'm gonna roll with you. I'm gonna go with Texas at Oklahoma State. And of course, Texas is gonna win. We're gonna get revenge for the bag we fumbled last year.
Yeah, I do think Texas wins that game as well. I didn't even think about Ole Miss and LSU. I just don't think LSU is going to be very good.
Understandable.
I think obviously with Brian Kelly, they'll be better than they've been, but I just don't think they'll still be. I think they'll have multiple losses still by then, so I just don't think they'll go there. But no, that's a good one as well. But I do have Ole Miss coming up in a little bit, so we'll get to that. So week number 9, my prediction is Michigan State at Michigan. Obviously, Michigan State showed up a lot of promise last year. They lost to Michigan last year. I think they were both ranked in the top 10 when they met. Yeah, they were both ranked top 10 last year. So that could also be a scenario this year or this coming season. So I went there. My honorable mention is Ohio State at Penn State. I think the only reason why I didn't go with Ohio State at Penn State because it would have been my third Penn State matchup, and I don't think they realistically go to a Penn State matchup three times. I think there's a lot of other games that are better than that. And my honorable mention is UGA in Florida. I can't see them not going to a UGA game. I have a UGA game coming up in a little bit, but I don't think Florida's going to be any good. So I just don't. They won't even touch that matchup. I think Georgia will cakewalk, and I don't think Florida will be any good anyway. So they're not going to go there. But I think I went with Michigan State and Michigan. What about you?
Well, we literally had the exact same thought process. I had Michigan at Michigan State, and then my honorable mention was Ohio State at Penn State. And then I was looking like Georgia versus Florida couldn't be bad, wouldn't be a bad shout. But in the end, kind of like you said, I don't think Florida's gonna be that good. And got to get some Big Ten in there. I've been hating on the Big Ten this whole time, so. Like Michigan at Michigan State. I think Michigan wins that game.
I do think they win as well. I do
rather easily, unfortunately, but
yeah. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I think Michigan wins that game pretty easily. So
for week 10, I have Baylor at Oklahoma for week 10 with an honorable mention of Clemson at Notre Dame. I picked Baylor at Oklahoma because I think Baylor's going to be good. I think Oklahoma's going to surprise a lot of people too. And I kind of don't. Alabama at LSU was another thing I kind of looked at. Obviously, you have to look at it, but I don't think LSU is going to be that good either. So I went Baylor, Oklahoma, but I'm not against Clemson at Notre Dame. I think Oklahoma wins that game. And if we go the other route, I think Clemson beats Notre Dame. Not confident, though.
Yeah, so I had it opposite. I think they do go to Clemson at Notre Dame. And then my honorable mention was what you mentioned. So, but yeah, my pick was Clemson at Notre Dame, and I do think that.
I think that's a better option.
Yeah,
honestly.
It
So,
is, and I think I have Notre Dame winning. I think Notre Dame wins. Uh, I think it'll be maybe a top 10 matchup, at least for sure. It has to be like a top 15 matchup. But I feel like Notre Dame at home, they got some spark. So I'm gonna go with Notre Dame beating Clemson.
all right, all right. What do we got for week 11?
So week 11. So outside of the SEC, you kind of start slowing down a little bit. There aren't really a lot of very interesting matchups. I think we'll kind of know who's who at this point. So I went with Bama at Ole Miss. Obviously, the offseason that Ole Miss had, bringing in Jackson Dart, Bama, the offseason that they had, bringing in a lot of transfers and everything. So I think it might be a pretty interesting situation where you might have Ole Miss, maybe nipping at the heels of Alabama in the SEC West. So maybe this could be a game for the SEC West champ title, a trip to Atlanta. So that might be the scenario that plays itself out. And I have Alabama winning that game. And my honorable mention, which is we kind of talked about this earlier, is Alabama A&M at Jackson State. So every year they do go to one FCS school, which we mentioned. And if Ole Miss and Bama, if Ole Miss has a few losses, if Bama has a few losses, which I don't think they will, but if they lose to UT and then lose to Texas A&M, maybe they could throw that game away and use this slot as their FCS slot, and they'll go to Bama A&M at Jackson State. But I don't expect either of those teams, Bama and Ole Miss, to be have multiple losses. So I think they're going to stick with Bama at Ole Miss, and I have Bama beating Ole Miss.
Yep, I had the same. I had Alabama versus Ole Miss as well. Kind of for the things you said. I think Ole Miss's schedule isn't that hard, so they should be at least decent enough for them to be, a college game day. And we know about Alabama; they are who they are. My honorable mention was Iowa State at Oklahoma State. But we got college game day going to Oklahoma State in week 8. That was week 8, right? Yeah, I think it was week 8.
Yeah, week 8. Yeah,
so that one's out. They're not going to go there twice. So yeah, Alabama versus Ole Miss. I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer. I'm gonna ride with Alabama in this as well.
Yeah, I just don't. Ole Miss is almost there, but they're not quite there yet. So
I can't see Alabama losing twice. I already got them losing once, so they're not going to lose twice.
They're going to lose to they're going to lose to Texas, and that's it.
Yeah, they are.
So week 12, this might have been a homer pick for me. I hadn't had Georgia at all, so I went with Georgia at Kentucky. It's kind of a Hail Mary pick because it all depends on what Kentucky does. But if anybody's going to compete in the SEC East, I think it might be Kentucky. I don't think Florida's going to do a lot. I don't think Tennessee's going to do a lot. I don't think Missouri or South Carolina are going to do anything. They're not going to be very good. But Kentucky, it might surprise some folks. So, it's the week before. It's the last conference week, or I shouldn't say that, but it's the last conference game for both teams. So this might be for a trip to Atlanta as well. So you never know. But so I kind of went with that. But if Kentucky is not what I think they might be, they're going to go with Miami at Clemson. I think that's the easy choice there. Miami, it's another kind of a game where the winner, goes to the title game, the ACC title game. So
you think they go to Clemson twice? Because don't we have them going there week 4?
Yeah, see, that's the thing too. Because like I mentioned earlier, I kind of struggle with going to the same place multiple times. But if there's no other really teams that are gonna, if Kentucky isn't what Kentucky is, then I don't really see them going anywhere else, in my opinion. So I have Miami at Clemson, but I still think that if Kentucky does, if they're maybe a one-loss team, or if they're at least a game behind Georgia, so where like the winner goes to Atlanta, I see them going to Lexington and going to Kentucky at Georgia, or Georgia at Kentucky.
So initially, I had Miami at Clemson. My other honorable mention was Utah at Oregon. but I think we have Oregon twice. We already have Utah, so I don't really see that. Miami at Clemson, I think that's probably the safe pick, honestly. But unless Kentucky's good. So this one was tough. Like I had 3 on my list right now.
Yeah.
But you know what? We got 2 Texas. We could toss some Georgia in there. So Georgia some love. We did them dirty week 1. Well, they did them dirty week 1. We had no say in that. But we'll
Yeah. No,
toss Georgia some love.
uh,
We'll get them on the tube. Why not?
okay. Yeah, that sounds good. And obviously, I got Georgia beating Kentucky. So
Yeah, I do too. Go Dogs.
So week 13, which is a rivalry week per se, you get a lot of rivalries that week.
Mhm.
You have Alabama, Auburn. That's kind of my audible mention, but I think they're going to go with Michigan and Ohio State. I mean, they have to.
Have
I
to.
think it's a
I didn't
no-brainer. I
write
think
anything else
Michigan,
down.
yeah, Michigan, yeah, exactly right. Michigan, Ohio State, they're both going to be very good. I think they both might be top ranked like they were last year. So I'm going to go with Ohio State on that one. But yeah, I don't really think there's anywhere else. I don't think Auburn's going to be good enough for them to go to Alabama, Auburn. So I'm going to go with Michigan at Ohio State, and I do have Ohio State beating Michigan.
I'm gonna go with the same. I'm gonna pick Michigan and win this game. I'm feeling a little freaky. It might be the wine talking. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna go with Michigan just because we need a little chaos week 13. Everybody thinks everything's set in stone. I want to see chaos. I love chaos. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
go with
chaos is
Michigan.
fun.
And I need Michigan to knock out Ohio State so Texas can slide in there to that playoff.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
thinking big
that's a
picture.
good point. That's a good point. So moving on to title week. So title week is interesting right now because we just saw that they changed the rules. The NCAA changed the rules, so now you don't have to have divisions, right? You can have anybody playing the conference title game. You're
Mhm.
starting to see conferences kind of make the Pac-12 already announced that they're not gonna. It's not determined by conference. It's just determined by conference record, regardless of division. So that's interesting. I still think that Georgia and Alabama are going to be the 2 best teams playing on title week, conference title week. So I think it's going to be like the 4th year in a row, 3rd or 4th year in a row. I think that they're going to go to Atlanta for the SEC title game, and I do think it'll be UGA and Bama. And I have to go with my dogs. I'm gonna do it. So I think Georgia solidifies themselves. Even though they beat them in the title game, they lost to them in the conference title game. So Georgia solidifies their first, full on undefeated season, and head to the playoffs as the number 1 seed. Obviously, no bias whatsoever on that pick, but that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way you kind of have to because the Big 12 that you've already seen those teams play each other. Pac-12, I guess now you could have potentially already seen those teams play each other, and the Big 10 is probably going to be Ohio State versus Wisconsin. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Minnesota. Shout out to Andrewster. But I think you had to go Georgia versus Bama. I mean, it's Georgia versus Bama. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I think Alabama wins. I'm sorry. You picked against my Longhorns, so I'm getting you back.
That's fine. I'll take it. Cool with me. It'll be an interesting matchup for sure. But so that's all of them. I mean, obviously there's a bowl season, but it's obvious that they're going to go to the semifinal games,
Mhm.
and then the Natty. So that's no questions about that. But that's it. That's 13 or 14 weeks technically. For college game day to go. And we could be 0 for 14. We could be half. At least we'll be
If
one.
we get half, I'll be happy. I'll
Yeah,
be
if we
proud we
get
get
half,
half.
I'll be happy with that too. I think if we can get 8, not 8, if we can get 6 or 7 of the 13 or 14, I think we'll be. I think that's pretty good. So obviously, it all depends on how these teams do during the season. I don't know. We might see a surprise. We might see Bama lose 3 games. What if UT loses to UTSA?
Hey, watch your mouth.
Go Runners! But
Relax.
you never know. You never know. So we'll see what happens. But this is what we think. We hope we're right. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give us a like, give us a follow. All of our social media. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube, I should say. Watch our videos. Any final words, Adam?
Like the video.
Yeah, like the video. Share with your friends. Comment. All of that gives us, exposure and helps us grow our channel. We're doing the best we can to put out as much as content as we can for you college football fans out there. So with that said, we're less than 100 days to the kickoff.
Excited.
So we're on that final stretch. 100 days. It sounds like a lot, but I promise you, it's not. I think that's what 7 Saturdays. No, it'd be 10 Saturday. No, wait, never mind. I don't have the time to do
quick
math.
Quick
Yeah,
math.
no math right now. But yeah. So that's us signing out.